RTX 50 series, a paper launch, ASUS tells you that you're twisting it wrong, and the latest 9070 XT rumor is... wow! Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're gonna be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast. This Friday, January 31st, 2025, you made it through the first month of the brand new year. Hope you are doing well with that. And in case you want to do even better, you can come over to our Twitch channel where we're going to be announcing the winner of our RTX 5080 Founders Edition giveaway for everybody who joined us on our Micro Center live stream. We headed over to the Cleveland one to see if we could get any GPUs, and to celebrate everybody who was there with us, we wanted to make sure that you could get your hands on something that maybe you couldn't get your hands on. So 3 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch, we're going to be drawing the winner for this, and then afterwards you can stay because you earn entries in order to get into the RTX 5090 PC giveaway. 9800 X3D, 96 gigs of RAM, and the Height Taro Milk Y70. And unfortunately for many of you, the only way you're ever going to get one of these right now is if you happen to win one, because according to a lot of reports all across the internet, this is a very tight supply launch from NVIDIA. A lot of people calling it a paper launch. A lot of people waiting in line at Micro Center to find out that they only had 5 RTX 5090s total at that store. So with that, that meant that stock sold out tremendously fast at retailers such as Newegg or Best Buy or various other online retailers, not just here in the United States, but elsewhere across the globe. It appears like the RTX 50 series was just swept up and sold. I do think that one of the primary responses we're gonna hear from a lot of people is, yeah, but it was probably scalpers who bought it. And I have been trudging through eBay, at least here in the United States, to see how many people are flipping their RTX 5090s and 5080s, and it actually isn't that many. What's actually a bit of a scourge on the entire thing is that people are trying to like fight the bots by creating fake listings where they're selling pictures of the GPU for like $2,000, $2,500 and then saying, if you're a human, don't buy this, but if you're a bot, haha, you can buy it. And number one, that's not gonna help anything. Number two, very few people are buying those things. And number three, that's totally against eBay's terms of service, and you're just kind of creating spam content. And it makes people feel like they're fighting the bots. Well, the issue wouldn't be scalpers buying the GPUs, it would be scalpers selling the GPU. And so you selling a picture, what are you doing? So as mentioned, we had to camp out in the Micro Center in Cleveland to potentially get a GPU. We got to meet a lot of great people while we were there, so thank you to everybody who said hi to us while we were trying to get those GPUs. But despite us leaving work as soon as we were done on Wednesday and getting there at 7:30 p.m., we were about 60th in line. Kyler and I, you can see right here, we're just hanging out trying to wait to find out how many GPUs were they gonna have in stock. And roughly around 9:30 is when the manager came out and disclosed how many GPUs they would have. And it turned out to be a total of 5 5090s and 79 5080s, at which point basically half the line completely left because they were like, we're not getting 5090s, and it doesn't appear like stock was better at many Micro Centers across the nation. And so that moved us up quite a bit, but then by the time we woke up around 6, 7 a.m., the line had stretched to over 100 people long, wrapping around the back of the building, and many people walked away not being able to get their RTX 5080. And talking in line, because I know the response, especially after the reviews, is like, this generation's not worth it. Why would people buy this? People were upgrading from 1080s and like GTX 970s, and people were upgrading from RX 580s and RTX 3060s. The RTX 5080 is a great upgrade for those GPUs. You can't really get another $1,000 GPU that's gonna perform at the level of a 5080. Does it make sense if you're on a 4080 Super? No. Does it beat the 4090? No, but you can't find a 4090 for about $1,000. If you could, go buy that instead. But regardless, the amount of people who were waiting in line who, number one, earnestly wanted to buy this GPU was quite high. Number two, they were making long shelf life decisions. I need to remind you that the RTX 30 series launched 5 years ago. It came out half a decade ago, okay, friends? That is a long time to save up for a GPU. You're saving up $200 a year to get to this upgrade. You have $1,000 to spend on it. Bam, this is what you get. Or even longer if you're on a previous generation 2080 Ti. The 5080 did appear to be making a lot of people happy. Now, because we weren't the first 5 in line, I did not get my hands on an RTX 5090, but I do need one for this PC we're giving away because I am keeping the Founders Edition for things that we're doing here at UFD Tech, and so I need to find a way to get a 5090 in the next month or so before the giveaway is drawn on February 28th. I'm confident in my ability to do that. We have a couple of contacts that we're working out, but in case you have a 5090 that you bought and you're like, you know what? I don't need it. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't need to spend this much money on a GPU. Send me an email. But in case you're looking to upgrade your GPU to the latest generation, you might need a new power supply, in which case you should check out today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Silverstone and their Zeus 1650R titanium power supply. The Zeus 1650R titanium is Silverstone's brand new flagship power supply. It has the highest efficiency rating of 80 plus titanium, compliant with the latest ATX 3.1 and PCIe Gen 5 standards, 2 native 12 volt 2x6 connectors for dual RTX 50 series cards, 1650 watts of continuous rating at 50 degrees Celsius for 24/7 operation, and full modular cables as you would expect for a PSU of this class. It's engineered with top grade components in a surprisingly compact 180mm deep enclosure. This means you can include this in almost any system or case that uses ATX power supplies. And one neat feature that Silverstone also included with the Zeus 1650R titanium is a 3-mode fan switch that allows you to run it in semi-fanless, automatic fan control, and full speed. This means you can use this for mission critical servers or for world record breaking overclocking attempts. Give your PC some extra horsepower by picking up a brand new Silverstone Zeus 1650R titanium PSU via the link in the description below. And again, a huge thank you to Silverstone for sponsoring today's video. That Zeus power supply from Silverstone is actually in the 5090 PC that we're giving away, so you're getting plenty of power when it comes to the GPU and the CPU that are going to be in that PC. And I forgot to mention the GPUs that Kyler and I were able to pick up yesterday at Micro Center. We got the ASUS Prime RTX 5080. That was the most affordable one that they had at the time. And then we tried to buy the most expensive one because we wanted to do like a price comparison between Founders Edition and the priciest one. But by the time we got there, the last Astral GPU, which is at a significant price increase, I think it's 50% more. It's basically the price of a 4090. The last one had sold right before me. So unfortunately, the one we could get was the Zotac Amp Extreme, and this will have to make do for our content purposes because that's what we have. And ASUS has a response to their Q-Release Slim controversy that's been going on. We actually did not cover this in a mainline hot news episode. Instead, I covered it in one of our shorts discussing how people were actually having issues with ASUS's new way of pulling out your GPU from your PC. It's actually different from the way it was before. Originally, you have that little latch that you kind of have to stick your finger in between the M.2 heatsink and you scratch your fingernail off while you release it. That was terrible. So ASUS got Q-Release, which made it so that the latch was a little longer. You press that and then it became a button that you could press. And then the Q-Release Slim is buttonless. If you yank at the right side of the GPU, it's gonna stay in place. If you yank at the left side of the GPU, it comes out. But as people are getting heavier cards like the 50 series, and they've had more experience with these motherboards, which it appears to be on the 800 series, so both the Z800 from Intel and the X800 from AMD, they're finding that it's damaging the PCB on the graphics card. So multiple people talking about how it is causing issues right here where you can see that PCB has some damage, other people showing that it has some damage, people even testing insertions and removals up to 60 times and finding that the damage gets consecutively worse as you continue to do it. When this initially dropped, ASUS said that they were investigating it, they'll have a response soon, and they dropped their response yesterday, to which I am not personally pleased with, and I think a few other people out there aren't necessarily happy with ASUS's response here, but essentially it comes out to them releasing official removal guidelines, and the general gist is that you're doing it wrong. It's not us who designed something that's unintuitive and damaging if you try to do it the way that you've always done it. It's you. You're not yanking it properly and twisting it properly, and they've never found damage if people do it correctly, so it's kind of like the RTX 40 series plug melting. If you just insert it correctly, then it's not gonna melt. Why can't you just plug it in right, huh? That's how it comes across, but as I mentioned in the short where I covered this, the likelihood, number one, that the average person is gonna experience issues from this is very, 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 very low, because the amount of insertions and removals the typical gamer does is probably less than a dozen, right? If you include regular cleanings, it might get a little bit higher, but if you do things like insert it when you buy it and take it out when you're replacing it, then you're likely not gonna have an issue here. But ASUS's response is simply follow the official removal guidelines to avoid any potential damages, and that if you have any problems with this, you can contact their customer support and they will cover any damage that does happen. So they also released this nice little image. Turn it 2 degrees, guys. How do you not know what 2 degrees of your hand tweaking a GPU is? You're doing it wrong. You're not doing it the way that they designed it to do it, so stop doing it the bad way. I'm not a huge fan of this response, as it's probably coming across in my tone. Even Hilbert over at Guru 3D says it's a poor design. It's hard to release. It's a very difficult thing, and it's easy to make a mistake. So telling me you have to twist it 2 degrees, it's just kind of, it comes across like you're blaming the consumer, which if you're trying to design something to make the consumer's life easier and instead it damages their $1,000 product, and then you come out and say, hey, not a good look. So it's this difficult situation. ASUS, they sent me an email and they were like, hey, we saw your short, can you pin this as a comment? And I responded to them that I'm not gonna do that, because you're basically telling me to blame the people who are having the issue. And I don't feel in good conscience like that's the right thing to do. But also they're promising that if your GPU does get damaged, if there is an issue, they will take care of it. But there comes the question of all of the previous customer support hiccups that ASUS has had that have been well documented across the litany of different YouTube videos and people's customer support issues with ASUS. So it's kind of difficult when people are trying to rebuild trust with your brand for trying to trust you that you're gonna take care of them, and your response is fix it yourself, but if you do break it, we'll take care of it. It just feels like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth right there, ASUS. So I'm not a huge fan of your response. I think you should just bring back the button. The button was totally fine. They did say in this release that there have been no damages with any of their other designs. It's just this slim one that's on all of their fanciest high-end motherboards now. Bring back the button. Just leave it at the button. Don't either fix the Q Release Slim so that it doesn't scrape the PCB at all, or bring back a button, because a button was fine. And Reece is fine at finding you deals.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals on the internet. Happy Friday. Hope you guys are ready for the weekend, and I'll send you off with some deals. Starting off first today, we have the Epo Maker and Fika Galaxy 80. This bare bones kit is available for only $39.99, making it $40 off. And honestly, a great place to start if you want to build your own mechanical keyboard from the ground up, and it looks so good in this baby blue. But then next up, we have this Lenovo Legion 27-inch 1440p 180Hz IPS gaming monitor, going for only $143.99, making it $56 off. And then lastly today, we have this G-Skill FlareX DDR5 RAM kit, featuring 96 gigs at 5200 megahertz at CL40 for only $145.99, with the included promo code, making it $44 off. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I hand you off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news. Cheers.
Well, Reece, here's the deal. We're old. We're getting old. Time's marching forward. I discovered while researching for hot news today that GeForce Now is turning 5 years old. This is difficult for me to accept, because that means that I have returned to America for over 5 years, been here for half a decade, and GeForce Now is celebrating their 5th anniversary by launching on the Vision Pro, the MetaQuest, having support for other different devices out there, Steam Deck included, and then adding a whole bunch of games. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the GeForce Now world, but it got me reminiscing about some of the earliest videos that we did when we moved back from South Africa to the United States.
And right now, I'm playing The Witcher 3 at ultra high details on my low-end laptop, because GeForce Now allows me to play high-end detail games anywhere in my house. Even here! Even here! Even here out in the cold. Even here! Even here! Even here! Even here! And even here. My friend just play the games. Yeah, but what games? You probably only have 10 games, and then I have to play them exclusively on your platform.
You underestimate my power.
But I already have a computer that I can play my games on. Why would I ever need you?
You mean this? This is your gaming computer?
Look, I know it's not much. Okay, I saved up a lot for it, and I'm working on getting a new one, but it can play the games I needed to. Maybe not the latest games at the highest detail, but it works.
No other cloud has the power of ray tracing.
Everything just works.
Beautiful, it's good stuff. 5 years ago, that hurts a lot. And it hurts to talk about this next article, which is the supposed performance of the RX 9070 XT. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this came across a lot in the chat comments while we were streaming at the Micro Center, and I've been seeing the discussion across the internet at large about this new report, which is the 9070 XT is gonna destroy NVIDIA. If this comes in at the $549 price point that has been alluded to, and it's this performance level, it's gonna win, because it's gonna beat the 5070 Ti by almost 15%, to which you might think, hey, that would put it better, that would put it like in a 5080 level, which is exactly what the rumor is indicating, that yes, that it's gonna be better than the 5070 Ti by quite a lot. It's gonna match a 4080 Super, which means it's gonna be very close to the 5080 at half the price, allegedly, and that the 9070 is gonna be 12% faster than the 5070, again, at a much cheaper price point. So that is the rumor that is currently coming out when it is discussed by the various different, reports here. Number one, I do not trust this source. The amount of rumors that have come out from this source that have led to just not them happening at all and not even being close in reality, and then there not even being a retraction or a disclosure of why it potentially happened to be wrong and the goalposts just continue to move, makes me question it, number one. Number two, other indications that I've been hearing behind the scenes just kind of conflict with this. The 9070 XT likely will not give you 5080 performance for half the price. AMD would just never do that as a business practice. They would charge way more for it, and so it would actually probably come in closer to that, hey, $900 price point that was alluded to earlier this week in Hot News. They would charge a lot for it. So the benchmarks aren't really making sense. The rumors aren't really making sense. Again, I'm just addressing this because there was so much internet discussion about this particular one that I just want to cast some skepticism here. The 9070 XT likely will not be that good, especially if it comes in at the 549 price point. That's my suggestion. Temper our expectations. AMD's not coming in to serve up a home run here. They're likely gonna do what they've done for the last many generations of AMD GPUs. They're gonna be a better value, better bang for buck. They're gonna be missing a few things that NVIDIA delivers on. They're gonna have some very key strengths, but they're gonna come in a little too high in price. Just a little bit too high. Just a little bit, so it's not a no-brainer. It's just it's a good idea, but it's not the like, why would you ever buy NVIDIA again? The RX 7000 kind of came in at that. The 7900 XTX, very good idea, especially compared to the $1,200 4080, but $1,000 7900 XTX is just a very difficult pill to swallow, right? Came in at $700, well then we're talking 1080 Ti pricing, right? And you're giving us that much performance, no brainer, right? So AMD has this history of not giving us the no-brainers, not hitting the home runs, but if we're talking about AMD being high in performance, guess what? They released new benchmarks about their 7900 XTX showing that it beats the 4090 in the new controversial AI that came out of China, DeepSeek, showing that yes, it can be faster than the 4090 when it comes to doing things with DeepSeek. It can DeepSeek real quick. And I can quickly check out what you said in yesterday's episode of Hot News. In the comments, we got Robloxian saying, this is the worst GPU generation ever. It's not. All right, like the catastrophizing, the recency bias of the negativity, it's not the worst, right? So like, let's really, really please put this into context. Yes, I did discuss in yesterday's episode about how the amount of CUDA cores it has compared to the flagship GPU, it is roughly 45%, and that typically comes in at the 60 class card. Is the 5080 doing that? Absolutely not. But is the 5080 faster than the previous generation? Yes, by a little bit. By a little bit, right, at the same price point. That is not the worst GPU generation ever. There have been GPU generations where they have underperformed compared to the predecessor. You don't remember that because we've been living in the gosh dang golden age of GPUs. We've had it so good for so long that when things just slow down to a few percentage points, we're losing our gosh dang minds. Guys, calm down. If you're upgrading from a 1080 to a 5080, guess what? You made a big jump. Congratulations. You're gonna have a fantastic gaming experience. All right, let's remember that we're playing video games here, okay? I'm not here trying to defend NVIDIA's business practices. And in fact, I had a kerfuffle with NVIDIA just yesterday over email because of certain things that were happening in the video that we released. So I'm not here trying to defend them. I'm here trying to defend gamers who are making decisions where they're buying these cards, the camaraderie that came from waiting out at a Micro Center at that, like, it had that early 2000s midnight release vibe to it. Just gamers getting outside and being excited about something together and waiting years to potentially acquire something that's faster so that they can have fun with themselves and friends. That's really what it's boiling down to. And there have been worse GPU generations. There have been worse cards. There have been worse releases than this. The RTX 5090 is the fastest graphics card on the planet, okay? They released a faster GPU than the previous one. They're charging more for it, but again, it's not unprecedented that NVIDIA would charge $2,000 for this, because you look at the 3090 Ti, that was $2,000. You look at the Titan RTX, that was $2,500. Look at the Titan Volta, that was $2,500. If we're playing in these top tier flagship cards, they've been this price for over half a decade, folks. Over half a decade. It's been a very long time. Do I agree with the idea that I would like the 5080 to be cheaper? Absolutely. I think it would be nice. It would be absolutely nice. But at the same token, there are other factors at play that it's just, yeah, you can compare it to the 4080, but people aren't regularly upgrading from the last generation. The average upgrade cycle, and I continue to say this time after time, is 5 to 7 years. And is this a good upgrade for people who last got a GPU 7 years ago? Yes, it is. It just is. It by far is. 2018, what's your flagship card? 1080 Ti. Is the 5080 going to absolutely demolish everything about the 1080 Ti? Yes. Even though it only has 5 gigabytes more VRAM, sure, yeah, it's gonna be bottlenecked at some point in future games. Guess what? It's gonna hold up way better than the 1080 Ti. All right, the GPU cores way faster, okay? The memory speed's way faster. The architecture's way improved. People went from this to this, and they're having a great time. Have fun with your cards. And then Rolex saying, same card after 2.5 years for $1,100 plus, and those morons from NVIDIA asking what is wrong with reviews? Where are you seeing that? Where's NVIDIA saying what's wrong with reviews? Who are you talking about? Who's feeding you this? Like, you got people like Zakatosh saying, those morons from NVIDIA are also holding their heads in their hands asking, why aren't people talking about AI frame gen like good little sheep? Ah. They don't talk like that. They're real people at NVIDIA. The marketing people at NVIDIA are like legit, like they know. They know that the community sentiment's not very good. They're not going, why? They're going, okay, how do we respond? What's the best way to approach this? Can we change this in the future? Oh no, because the marketing team has no impact on the people who make the pricing and engineering decisions. They're all separate. It's a mega corporation, right? Like it's all disjointed. But these strawmen that we put up for all of these arguments about like they think this, or oh they got to be putting their hands in their heads, or those morons asking what's wrong with the reviews. Who is? Huh? They might be fact-checking things here and there. They might be saying, hey, there's a little wrinkle in that test. You did a little wrong. Can we try to address that? But they're not going, oh, we had no idea this was coming. Anyway, IWL Gaming saying, my wife has a 6900 XT and I have a 3090. I have no idea. WTF to upgrade it to this summer. Might be waiting another 2 years. 5080s wouldn't be bad, except I'm sure any real consumer version is going to be $1,200 minimum. And for the roughly 30% performance bump, at this point, I'm convinced downgrading monitors is a better way to get performance. With the way things are going, 1080p Ultra Wide is going to be the master race for anyone who doesn't want to shell out $4,000 to $5,000 every 2 years. Where are you spending $4,000 every 2 years? Who's charging you that much for GPUs? If you're talking about 2 people, fine. But I will agree with you that $1,200 minimum. This was the cheapest card that we could get at Micro Center. The Prime, it was $1,200. Very difficult to get the $999. The Founders Editions went out of stock immediately. But I agree. Waiting another 2 years, again, as I want to just keep harping, that's average. That's normal. You're on 5 years right now. You're going to 7. That's normal. PC DIY consumer behavior. That is regular. The 3090 should still be serving you well. 6900 XT, still a fantastic GPU. It's a little power hungry, but it gets the job done. And I disagree with the idea that you should be downgrading monitors to get better performance. I'm gonna start on a little new tirade. OLED monitor, all right? That's the biggest upgrade that a lot of people can make, that if like you're looking at a 5080 and you're like, I don't know if that's gonna be enough performance, and you don't have an OLED monitor, trust me, it's gonna make every game look better. It's gonna make every game more beautiful. And you might be like, well, what about burn-in? It's gonna be cheaper than buying the $1,200 GPU if you just get a second one in like 2 years, if it does burn in. But the tech on burn-in is getting way better. I'm just, I don't know, I'm joking a little bit. But OLED monitor, fantastic upgrade, okay? That'll improve every game. It won't give you better FPS, but it will visually improve your games, I promise. And then Chris Roberts saying, did you look at the reviews of the overclocking headroom on the 5080 though? It has quite a bit of overclocking headroom. Also, the frequency is way more stable than the 4080. Check out ASUS since he did some overclocking. He got a 3200 megahertz that puts the uplift directly in the middle of the 4090 and 5080. This is not about the 5080, does not beat the 4090. I think the reason that they kept the same note as the prior generation, maybe when this get 20 angstrom processors, we'll see an uplift. Heck, how small can we go? Subatomic particles, LOL. Chris, I didn't see those simply because they were not out prior to filming the episode of Hot News. But that is one of the reasons why we picked up you know, different versions of the 5080 is because we do want to kind of test that, like the performance parity between something that has different coolers, a little overclocked versus the stock, and then try to push them both and kind of get an idea of the general performance of how far you can go with these GPUs. I hear you. I want to see what that's like. But also, you do bring up a good point that I think a lot of people are conflating, right? Like, people are like, oh, this generation's still on 4 nanometers. What the hell, NVIDIA? NVIDIA doesn't own a fab. They can't make TSMC have a new node that's ready for these giant GPUs, all right? The technology hasn't progressed to the point where they could have developed it on a new node and had that ship in a reliable time frame. Is it gonna be ready in another 2 years? Probably, but then guess what'll happen? People will be like, why didn't we get another GPU for 4 years? If the release happens in 2027, people will be like, I would have rather had a GPU in 2025 that was just a mild increase instead of waiting 4 years for nothing. We just find things to complain about the entire freaking time. But also bringing up the 4 nanometers, 20 angstrom stuff, that's all marketing, right? Like the average nanometer size of a transistor is nowhere near that small. It's nowhere near that, like it's you know, subatomic, all of that kind of stuff. These are marketing numbers. It's based on TSMC's own naming, and then Intel copied it. It's the whole thing there. So we've still got a ways to go. It's just that it's becoming more and more expensive to do it. The tech to create smaller transistors is getting cost prohibitive at this point. And that's not NVIDIA's fault, right? That's not AMD's fault that they can't create a new node to put their GPUs on. That it's Intel's fault, right? Like, they have their own fabrication facility, they have their own foundry, that's kind of their job. But NVIDIA and AMD are fabless, and so they design the architecture in conjunction with these fabs, and they can't push TSMC to do something that doesn't yet exist and has to be engineered into life. It has to be created. It's never been done before. They got to do unprecedented things in order to get this working, and progress is never guaranteed. It's not something that will inevitably happen. It has to be fought for by people every step of the way, and that includes in shrinking transistors, right? I think I'm getting to my boiling point when it comes to the negativity in the PC gaming space, all right? I understand that people want more, but the crapping on everybody for even just trying to enjoy what they have is ridiculous, all right? The amount of people in our stream who are like, why would you get a 5080? Because you haven't upgraded in 7 to 10 years, all right? It's a fine upgrade to do now, all right? Like, yeah, people have been itching to upgrade for a while, and they finally have the money. I'm not gonna be there to crap on them being like, well, actually, this is the worst generation that we've had in years, and actually the 4080 Super, which isn't for sale anymore, so you can't buy it, so what am I even saying, was technically a better power efficiency and price to performance, and so you're getting a worse deal. And they're gonna look at me and say, okay, but I'm here to buy this one. Can I get this one? I can't get this other one you're talking about. Can I get this one? Oh, yes? Okay, I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna take it home, and I'm gonna go enjoy my video games. I want us to enjoy everything. Rant over that. It's probably because I'm tired. I might look back on this comment response being like, "Oh, Brett, you should have had an extra nap before filming because that was a little spicy." All right, see you back here on Tuesday for more of the hottest tech news in February.